You're listening to Real Facts on Real Estate with Sean Patrick Maloney.
That sounds good.
Welcome to episode 33, How to Negotiate in Real Estate. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. Negotiation is everything in real estate. It's actually one of the biggest things our clients hire us for. We're always involved in it, and it's important to know how to do it and get it right. It can be a place where you can save a lot of money, or it can be a place where you lose a lot and have to make concessions. So let's dive right into it. One of the first things that's most important in negotiations is the relationships you have with people and the tonality you use. So often do people come off as demanding and not understanding when they actually negotiate. They just come off, they just want to write a quick email because they're scared to speak with the other party. They fire it off, and it just is a list that just tells people, do this, don't do that. I want this, I want that. Give me this money, give me that. That's the worst way you can possibly negotiate. So this podcast is really going to help you understand better ways to make it happen and how to actually win in these situations. The most important thing to remember in all negotiations is it should be a win-win scenario. It should be that both parties leave feeling like they got something done and they accomplished a deal based on the negotiations, and not that the negotiations made one of them lose. Because when that happens, it tends to throw a wrench into the equation that ends up being the problem that pops up here and there throughout the deal, where the person, okay, well, you got me there, I'm going to get you back here. And it can be anything from delayed closings to missed dates to bad relations to awkward closing tables. Really, the list goes on. But just remember, win-win is going to end up with the best situation and it's going to get the deal done. So one of the first things I talked about and I just alluded to was written versus spoken. When you're doing negotiating, you want to remember, sometimes you want it in writing, but other times there's nothing better than spoken word. That way there you can use tonality in your voice and you can actually hear how the party is receiving what you're saying versus in a written letter, it's already gone. And then tonality is very lacking. You can use emojis and stuff, but I don't know you want to use emojis during a real estate negotiation. So you're better off to move it over to spoken word versus the written word. But when you are writing something down, you want to think about how it comes off. The best way to write down things in negotiations is to write them off in a list and to number them so that it doesn't act like a run-on. It doesn't say all the items in a list, but as a paragraph, because when somebody reads it, it's hard for them to break down which ones are which, and then it gives them the availability of just saying no to everything. If you number them off and you put them in a consolidated list like that, it will actually give them the opportunity to say yes to 1 and 2, but no to number 3 and yes to number 4, versus when you put them in the whole grouping, then it makes the other person have to respond. They have to copy and paste it, and they try to put everything in. And sometimes they think one was dependent on another. So just keep that in mind, that when you are doing it in writing, you want to put it as that. And then also use words that are powerful but not demanding. So when you're writing that something, it should not say that this must be done. It could say that it should be done or shall be done. But if you say can be or could be done, then that weakens it in the other direction. So if you say, will your seller repair this, that's going to tell them that you're asking, versus the seller shall repair this is going to tell them that you're demanding, or the seller should is insinuating. So different words have different connotations, and it's important to understand the ones you're writing and not always to just be the soft party and to write all soft words, but then also to look back and say, is my list just straight demands and not that open? So by using these words intermittently and using which one best fits the situation, because again, your client has instructed you what they actually want out of that negotiation, whether it be a negotiation of price or a negotiation of something that went wrong at the home inspection, usually your client's going to tell you exactly how they feel. And when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you talk to the client about, is that actually how you feel? Do you feel like we're going to walk away if this doesn't go? Or do you feel like we're trying to get this out of the other person? Because it's important to understand what the end goal of your negotiation is when you're writing these things up. Because if it is that you want to walk away if it's gone, you maybe want to be a little bit firmer. You might want to tell the other agent that it's a should or shall and it's a must. Because if you don't, and they think it's a negotiation point, then you have to go back a whole nother round. They may have already kind of thought that they were going to get through with just answering you back with a couple things, and then it may come off wrong if you go back, okay, you just made concessions to me, but they're not enough. So you do want to make sure you understand where the end goal is when you're talking with your client. But also, when you talk with your client about getting where the end goal is, find out, are they serious about it? I have seen this happen where they tell me we're going to walk away if it doesn't happen, and I go all in and the person says no, and then they're like, oh, well, what do we do now? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? We already talked. You said we're going to walk away. Well, I don't want to lose the money that I already put on the home inspection, or I don't want to, I want this house. I don't mind paying a little more. Well, that can make you seem really weak. When you come back after you affirm on something and you go back and you say, yeah, you know what? Now we will. So say we did this on the price. We said $480. They said no, $490. And we said hard $480 or we're walking away. Okay, you didn't walk away. Now you continue forward. Guess what? The next negotiation that you have coming up, the one after the home inspection, when you say, we need you to do this item or that item, they're going to be like, these people said this before. They told us they were going to walk away. Now they're too deep. Now they're even deeper. Let's just keep on this path and we're not going to negotiate with them at all. So that's something you got to remember, is when you actually expose your cards out, after saying you're firm on something, you don't walk away, it can cause an issue. But do remember also, sometimes you'll have a situation where the seller will say, I'm not accepting that number, and you will walk away. You walk away, and then the next morning, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, your phone rings. Oh, geez, we slept on it, and we're sorry, and we'll take that number if you're still good on it. That's a point where now you're back in the control seat again. And now when you make it to that home inspection as a buyer's agent, you may be able to demand a little bit more stuff. You might be able to get a little money or something out of them if you actually find issues with the home. But just keep that in mind. No negotiation's dead till it's totally dead. And walking away sometimes and allowing dead air is one of the best ways to negotiate. All the time we want to fill dead air with talk, emails, text messages, all these things. Sometimes when you do something like that, you just want to let them feel the feeling of, oh wait, we just lost our buyer. Or, oh wait, we're going to lose the house that we really want. When you put them in that power seat because you're not all over the other agent, hey, did they reply back yet? Hey, did they reply back yet? Where you're showing your desperation, you're in that power seat of, we're over here and we're cold and sorry guys, we're just not going to be moving until you move. That is a good way to actually have them come to you. And again, in the negotiating, even though we're trying to go for a win-win situation for everybody where we all feel like we got it done correctly, sometimes negotiations do get ugly, and sometimes quieting it down, taking more time, giving people space can pull everybody back into a reasonable feeling of the whole deal. So just always keep that in mind when things get too heated. One of the things that you can do in negotiation as well is you can hold things back. Like, so okay, we want to do X, Y, and Z, but maybe we shouldn't talk about all that up front. Maybe we should talk about X and Y, and then once we get that done, we talk about Z at a future time. Sometimes everybody wants to just put it all in one package. They want to talk about it all right away. And sometimes it's necessary to talk about everything right away. But when you can, holding a little bit of information back can end up kind of softening the negotiation that you're working on. Keep the focus on one item and then work the focus onto something else. In real estate, we often have different types of negotiations. We have ones where we're negotiating over cash or the cost for the actual home. We have ones where we're negotiating looking to get repairs. We have other ones where we're looking to get a discount off of the end price or maybe even a credit at the sale. So when you're working on these, you do want to make sure you talk with your mortgage professional and also the attorney about what's legal. Can I ask for repair money back? How do I have to word it? Where does it have to be put in the deal? Should it be a concession at closing or should it be a discount off of the price? Because there's quite a bit of stuff that you actually cannot put on the offer form or you cannot put on the purchase and sale agreement as far as repairs, because it's most of the time not legal for you to be taking money from the bank, and by buying a house for more money than it's worth and taking money on a repair order, it's basically like financing your own money for repairs, which that falls into 2 or 3K or construction loan. So just be aware of that, but also be aware of what the client needs, because if a repair needs to be done, say a new roof, and you're negotiating with someone and they say, well, we'll take $15,000 off of the asking price, that's all fine and dandy, but where's the $15,000 going to come from to actually put the new roof on. So if your clients need cash, or they need a repair, or they need a discount, that's important to know. Because again, you might have got that $15,000 off asking, which is great, and it's going to save them the $15,000, but it doesn't put the money in their pocket to accomplish the actual act. And that's why in negotiations, honesty is important. When you're talking with the other agent in this situation, you need to say to them, hey, listen, my folks are putting the money down that they have. They're spending the rest of their cash flow on furniture for the home and closing costs. There's no way they're going to come up with $15,000. So when I'm negotiating with you and I'm asking for your client to do this repair, it's either they do this repair or nothing. We can't take a discount off of the price. And by saying that, it allows them to go back and talk to their client and tell them, oh, hey, the other party, they don't have any cash flow. They won't be able to afford this roof unless we do it. It makes you not weak, it actually strengthens you. It tells them exactly what you need, and it justifies it. Justifiers are really great in negotiations. Some different justifiers are actually more like evidence, such as repair orders and things like that. But remembering that keeping the other party understanding what you're trying to accomplish can help them. Because instead of them thinking, okay, this person just wants my $15,000 off the price, they realize you actually need a roof and that you're actually going to take that money and put it into the roof. It can gain you a little leverage because they feel a little more respect to it. Because some people, unfortunately, use the time of the home inspection as a time to beat up the seller further when they've already negotiated down the price. So by showing them that you're going to do the repair, it actually can strengthen it because they say, you know what, they didn't know the roof was wrong and, unfortunately they need to do it. So one of the things you want to do whenever you're negotiating is providing that evidence. And like I said before, the evidence can be a lot of different things, but one of the more important ones is to get estimates. If you're at a point where you are negotiating in the home inspection, or if you're at the point of an offer and you know something's wrong and it's glaring and it's there, and you're putting in the offer, you say to yourself, well, I really, really need that fixed, and I really don't want to waste my money on home inspection to argue this later. I should put it into the offer. That's when you want to get those estimates and quotes, because it's a lot more powerful to submit that you want a certain amount of money off or a certain amount of work done by putting it in with 3 licensed contractors' estimates attached, because that tells the person, okay, they're not just asking for $7,000 for the roof. They're asking for $7,000 for the roof because one guy said it was $6,000, one said it was $7,000, the other one said $9,500. They're being very fair. Notice I went with the middle estimate. That's a fairness thing. You're showing the person that I'm not asking you for $9,500. So think about that. It's really, really good idea to call the most expensive company out when negotiating and get an estimate from them. Put it in the pile of estimates along with the one that's in the middle and the one that's low, showing that, hey, we're not asking you for the best, we're just asking you for a good enough version. And again, that evidence showing that the other company said $10,500 and you only wanted $9,000, that's evidence that you gave them a $1,500 discount because you did not go with the most expensive one. Versus when you just say $9,000 and they don't know and they call one roofer and he comes over and says $7,000, then you got to remember they're like, oh man, that guy's trying to take me for an extra 2 G's. This is why the evidence is super important. And a lot of people forget that, whether it be the buyer or seller, they forget the other party is going to do their due diligence. So if you go out and do the estimates and you show them the printed estimates, they go, okay, I don't need to go do due diligence. They've done it. But if you just throw a number at them, they're calling the contractor and they're finding out an estimate because they're not going to just go out on a whim and say, I'm going to give him $7,000 when it could be only $5,000. It's worth their call for that estimate. So by doing the work for them, you save them the time. Ultimately, people are lazy, so they're going to use those estimates you give them, and they're going to look at that and they're going to say, okay, it's a lot easier to work with this. Remember, evidence in this is going to get you more, and it's going to build a better relationship with them. And at the beginning of this podcast, I started off by saying relationships are everything. So when you're working with other agents, you want to be building relationships with them. This is something that can help a lot in negotiating. So this is going to seem completely unrelated, but this is why going out on broker tours and going out to localized events for real estate agents can be very helpful. When you already have a relationship with somebody, it's a lot easier to negotiate with them. When you're the person on the phone that has a face behind the name, they're going to work with you a lot better than when you're somebody they don't know and they don't understand who you are. This is going to build up your reasonable character. They're going to believe in you. They're going to believe in what you do, but also you already have that relationship. And remember to maintain the relationship the whole time. Some agents, they really get kind of crazy when it comes to negotiations. They hang up on each other. They yell at each other. They send really mean emails. They talk bad behind other people's back. This is just part of the deal. You know the old saying, this is business. This is business. This is not a time to take it personal, make it emotional, tell people what a reasonable person would do. You're to be the reasonable person. You're to be the voice of reason, and you're to build that relationship with them and continue on. Because hard-nosing anything can really just end up where you get the door slammed on you. And the last thing you want to do is lose the deal for your clients. You don't want to lose the deal for the clients because you're not willing to lose a little bit of the strength of your voice or how tough you are and you can out-negotiate anybody. It's important to remember what the ultimate goal of your client is. And knowing that goal and knowing how you're going to accomplish it will keep you from being too much of a hard nose. Because I can tell you, I worked with agents that, I can barely stomach dealing with them, but I don't need that to become a part of the deal. I just take everything mean they said right out of the context. I clean their talk up and then I talk to my client. I don't ever convey the messages back and forth that go on where people say unreasonable or crazy things. I just completely clean it up on my own. And that's something you should do as well. When you're working with your client, if the other agent's a jerk, the last thing you need to do is tell your client, oh my God, this other agent is such a jerk, because it's going to close down their negotiating. It's going to close down their mentality. It's going to make them want to prove that they're better than the other agent and they're just not going to work with him because he's just so mean and everything. Same thing about the other client. It's never your business to talk about, oh, they're so cheap or all these things. Do not break down communications. Build the relationships. Make them feel like they know the other people. Make them understand what reasonableness is. Make them understand if the person says to you, I can't believe they won't do that. It's only $500. The words, it's only. When somebody says it's only, remind them that it's only in both directions. Not that you're not the fiduciary for your client, but it's that you need to explain to them that are we willing to walk away from a deal of a $500, or are we playing childish games by saying it's only $500 to each other? It's a really important thing to do, and I think a lot of people don't do it enough. They go, you're right, it is only $500. I can't believe they wouldn't do that. They want to confide with them. You don't need to confide with people on everything. You need to be there to be their fiduciary. And the fiduciary not only means that you're actually trying to protect their money, but it also means that you're trying to protect their money and making good decisions. So asking for $500 off because of some home inspection item or demanding another $1,000 off of the sale price so you won't move forward, you need to explain to them what it really means. This really means that we might lose this one. What does that mean? Are you a renter? Are you going to spend a few more months' rent before you find the next house? If you are, how much money are you losing? $1,500, $2,000 a month versus making a mortgage payment? Okay, is that not that $1,000? Have we not found that? Because the fiduciary not only protects their money in the outflow of it, but also the income of it and how it ultimately is used. Remember, when you're negotiating, one of the most important things is to hold the confidentiality. Do not ever allow the other party to know weaknesses that you have. Are your clients getting divorced? Are your clients having a child and they need another bedroom? Do they need to make it in by the school year? Are they these different items that this is the only one that they've seen in 6 months that they like? Do not say these key buzz phrases. These are ones that give away what you're trying to accomplish. Oh my God, they haven't found anything. We've been looking for 6 months. We need this house. Says to the other agent, they're willing to pay top dollar. They're not going to back off when it comes to home inspection, and they're going to close whether they like it or not because they've found nothing else. I hope these details help you in your future negotiations. If you ever have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to PM me, DM me, give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever works best. Thanks for listening this week. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, and have a great week. Talk to you next week.